What's up, Tolkien Poppers? This is Nick with another episode of the Tolkien Pop podcast. And this one, I've got Dr. Leah Robinson, who is somebody I've befriended and somebody whose academic work has become really influential on my own. I wrote a paper on bad theology and Tolkien studies, and I'm drawing explicitly from her work and her book, which is called Bad Theology, and she has a sequel, Bad Theology in the Age of COVID, which we'll talk about briefly. But she's awesome. We talk about a multitude of things, but primarily we're going to be talking about her experience with C.S. Lewis, because she's on the C.S. Lewis side of the Tolkien-Lewis divide. Boo! But we love her anyway, and we like Lewis. We like Lewis. It's fine. But it's going to be a good conversation. We'll mostly talk about her experience in Northern Ireland, going to C.S. Lewis's house, how she experiences him, how we enjoy figures that might seem problematic and have some bad theology, and continue to do things that we like and enjoy things. So sit back, relax, and Leah's a wine enjoyer. So pour yourself a little glass of wine and enjoy the conversation. But drink responsibly. What's up, everybody? This is Nick, and I'm here with Dr. Leah Robinson, who practical theologian, connoisseur of wines, overall badass human being. You know, she's throwing up the rock fist, and Leah's just a cool. We met at Theology beer camp, which I've talked about on the podcast a couple times, and we've stayed connected. We send each other, edgy memes and group chats, and we talk about all kinds of stuff.
I feel like I've fallen behind because I just, there's like 45 messages. Nick and I are both bad at our phones. We have discussed this too.
we are both, we are both millennials going on to the greatest generation. We're on our way, but it's true. But anyways, we're here to talk about here. We're going to talk about, get ready, Tolkien people. We're going to be talking about C.S. Lewis, and we're going to talk about bad theology. We're going to talk about Tolkien. Maybe me and Dr. Leah are going to get into a freaking showdown. I don't know. Things could happen.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm having a week, so it's not the week to take.
It's National Pinot Noir Day, so I'm channeling a little Dr. Leah right now.
Wine is coming, but I had to you guys know that if I go, I either go no or I go hard. There's what I've discovered, I think even in the phone conversation, is there's no middle. It's just college football, wine, beer camp, or it's just I'm asleep in my bed. And that's it. So today I am having to build up to where I'm going to be. But that build up is going to be red wine. And also, C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, if they got in a fight, who would win? C.S. Lewis.
Oh, disagree. Hard disagree.
I actually don't know what J.R.R. Tolkien looks like, I don't think. Was he a big dude?
No, he was actually pretty thin. He played rugby, though, for Oxford.
It's Oxford.
Yeah, he's honestly probably a twerp.
I played golf for Ringgold, Georgia. That's not really giving me much.
I've actually never seen a picture of C.S. Lewis either, when he was a young man.
He's pretty, I think, short and he was in the war too, I think. So I think he's quite they probably had similar builds, to be honest.
Yeah.
But let's get real. I mean, it's saying people at beer camp who's going to win in a fight. The answer's the women, probably, if we're real with each other.
No doubt.
But he sort of had anyway, I think he could win. Just because he's got that long-term atheism on the side.
True. Very true. Well, before we dive in a little bit, tell us a little bit more. If people don't know who you are, tell us about you, your work, and some of the more. We know you like wine, obviously, and C.S. Lewis here, obviously a C.S. Lewis fan. But tell us a little more about you.
Yeah, it's always fun to do these intros because I feel like we are all on each other's podcasts and we do kind of the same intros. I do love wine and wine is coming. I have to say, wine is coming. I do my best combos over wine. But yeah, so I am from Georgia. I'm from Ringgold, Georgia. And it's a small town in North Georgia. And that comes out very intensely when I drink as well. The Georgia will come back. It doesn't sound like it now. I'm a diehard, you found this out, Georgia Bulldogs fan. And Christy is a diehard Ohio State fan. There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have many a debate about this. And if you want me to turn into a boy real quick, just talk about football. So I got my education in Georgia for the most part, and then I went to Mercer University, which I knew that I wanted to do, I became an atheist I think I talked about this on Josh's podcast, but I became an atheist when I was in college and like shaved my half of my head and like did the other half red and would only date guys that were in screaming bands,
Hell
which
yeah.
really is an era. Like we all need our own eras tour, and that would definitely be like an eras. I think I told Nick this. I hung out in Nashville a whole lot with all these people that were like, "I'm gonna make it," and I'm like, "Good for you. You're not going to, but it's cool." So there was that, and then yeah. So I got my undergraduate. I have an undergraduate in psychology and religious studies because I was like, I don't know which one I want to go to, so or which one I want to do, and ended up I had a teacher, Rob Nash, who a lot of people at beer camp know, and he is not someone that's super. He's not like the fun process guys that are always on the you guys' things, but he's someone who's very solid. Who's just been like in the theology world for a long time, and he was like, "Hey, we're starting a seminary, and if you don't go, I'm gonna be mad at you, like,
Yeah.
because this is what you're." I got into UGA to go to get my master's in psychology, and he was like, "We'll give you a full scholarship. You can come work here. You need to do theology." Because I took his class. I like hate took his class. You know, like when you hate take a class, like you hate listen to something or you hate watch something, and you're like a voyeur. I like had to take a religion class. I was at a Baptist school, so I hate took history of Christianity. Again, favorite story. Made 100. Made 100 on the final exam. Jesus died. What happened next? Favorite story. And then he was like, "You're going with me. You're doing this." And so we've created a Baptist school, grew up Southern Baptist, that girls can go to. Shock! Oh my
Whoa.
God! And so I was like, "Okay, I know wild things that especially in our current administration. I'm just like, and we're the crazy ones, right?
Yeah,
We're
no
the crazy
doubt.
ones. Yeah. Anyway, no doubt, right? So then I went there, and I got my MDiv and I did chaplaincy for a while. I did pastoral ministry for a while. And then I had another professor there who was like, "You have to go get your PhD." And so I had this like string of people that were really encouraging to me. And I think that's sort of what I've wanted to be in my life as a teacher too, is like not to encourage people that, and this is not being mean, it'll come off as mean, but it's not, is that can do it that that I, because not it's not for everybody. Like it's not a thing it's a really tough gig doing that, and you've got to leave. I mean, I left the country. I, but it's one of those things, and you kind of it has to be your purpose, if that makes sense. Like for a while anyway, because I never wanted kids. I never really wanted the house. I never wanted like the cul-de-sac thing. But what I did want was that PhD. And so I went and got it in Scotland and then taught with Trip Fuller in Edinburgh and not at Glasgow, but I taught at Glasgow for my postdoc. And then I came here and now I teach. Hilariously enough, at that said seminary,
That is so
I
that is
that
so
let women
cool.
in. Yeah, so that's I work at Mercer now, and yeah, I teach the next generation, and you really do feel like I'm 40, and but you do feel like you have passed on this sort of thing. Like I see these new intellectuals that are doing things, and I see what Rob Nash saw in me.
Mm.
Like I can see what he saw because they're so excited, but they're also 20. And I'm like, that's what you have to have is you have to have both those things. I have three books out. One is based on my dissertation, which was on theology in Ireland, Northern Ireland. It's qualitative research, and then I have bad theology and COVID. And then I have a new book coming out on conversion therapy very soon and bad theology as well, because apparently that's, it's my gig now. And that's okay. Um, I like cats a lot, like red wine. I'm just like a typical, like people always make fun of Taylor Swift, and I'm like, she is just kind of our generation of a human. Like, don't make
Mm.
fun of her. I like indie music. You like indie music too. That's a
Yeah,
part of your thing.
I have
The one
to.
thing I held on from
Dr.
was
Leah
Dumb Boys.
Robinson. I keep calling you Dr. Leah, but I
You
just want
can.
people to know how
I take it.
badass you are. Is like, one of the cool things about Leah that we found out when we started talking more was that Leah like booked awesome bands and was like in the fucking
Did.
scene, y'all.
I was a scene kid. I was officially a scene kid, as we call. And also, I mean, luckily I booked them so I didn't fall way into the groupie status, but I want to be very clear that I straight up had a whole demographic of guys I dated there that are all now married with children and lovely humans, and now we're friends. Like none of us hate each other. But that was like my entire personality for like a very long time. So yeah, I booked a lot of shows and it was really fun because I think I needed I grew up because I grew up Southern Baptist, it a lot of people have a lot of tough memories of that. And I do. I don't want to discredit that. But my memories are kind of nice in a way. It was my family and like my grandma. It reminds me of my grandparents. I don't love the gender thing. I think that's an insane thing and definitely not the sexuality thing. And you guys, if you read me, know that that's not my jam. But as a kid, I didn't have a horrible time in the church. It was just what we did. It was just life. Um, But it was nice to see, like, when I started to see these bands play, I was like, oh, they're screaming about Jesus now. So it was like a little, like, I wasn't going full, screw you, but I was going a little there. And then, of course, I became an atheist and decided I didn't really, except that I talked to God all the time and told God how much of an atheist I was on the regular. So I always joked to people that I was like the worst atheist of all time because I was just like, I think I said that on Josh's part, and he was like, "You're smart. Like you really don't think the God thing." And I'm like, "I tried, dude. I tried. It just didn't stick." So I tried to be one. Wasn't.
Yeah, no,
So
I did.
that's
I
me.
went through an atheist phase too, um, and
It's
also
a,
did not
it's
make it out.
Well, and look, I'm married to someone who didn't grow up religious, and I get it. Like, it's not something that but it's hard when you grew up in the system of religion, like to just be like, this is not my system anymore. Like, I think that's with any system, really. Like, if you grew up in, I have friends that grew up in India who are Hindu, and it's like, but they're like, well, I'm Hindu, I'm sorry. It's like, no, you don't be sorry you grew up in India. Like, what do you mean? Like,
Right.
you can be sorry for like Hindu nationalism the way that I cringe at everything happening right now in our country. But like you don't have to be we didn't have a choice. You think I got a choice in that? It's like I didn't get a choice in supporting Georgia football. Like I straight came home in a Georgia onesie. Like I didn't have any choice in that. And so I think we have to be a little bit more forgiving with ourselves in that sense. Like it's okay to burn it all to the ground. I'm here for it. But, sometimes, and Chrissy had talked about this on the podcast, it's harder to build it back up. What do you build out of the ashes, in a way? So, um, and for some people that's screw all of it, and then some people they go, you know, do all the
Yeah.
other things, and that's
No, it's. I appreciate you sharing again because I know you've been on all of like all our mutual friends podcasts and talked a little bit about it. But I have a lot of friends who are part of like the Tolkien community who I think are either lapsed people of faith, or they don't have faith and they're scared of, weird Christian nationalists. And
Yeah, yeah.
very similar. So I think they'll be refreshed to hear your story. Just because I had a similar experience, where I grew up in the Church of the Nazarene. It was just like my family were also very irreverent. Like swearing wasn't a big deal. We saw all the rated R movies. People thought like, Harry Potter was witchcraft, and my mom and dad were like, "What's the big deal?" And and my mom was a pastor, and
Oh,
so
dang, I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, PK. And it's a
Oh,
weird
wow.
conservative denomination with women pastors,
But
and
your mom was a yeah, I was gonna say your mom was a pastor. Huh.
that's like the
I mean,
only.
I don't know a lot about the Nazarene, to be fair.
They broke up from the Methodists in the early 20th century because they were like
Okay.
more progressive. They were like these Methodists are too conservatives, and now they're the highest demographic of evangelicals who voted for Trump. So it's a weird pendulum swing with the Church of the
Dang.
Nazarene.
Dang.
Yeah,
Okay.
but kind of went through a similar, like I said, deconstruction sort of thing. Not, I guess not more atheist thing. Came back, but a lot of Tolkien people they enjoy hearing these type of things because, as we'll talk about with C.S. Lewis, probably at some point, there's a lot of Christians who like to hijack figures of history for their own ends. It's not just far right people. Everyone does it to a certain extent, right?
No, no,
But
we all do. We all do.
there's a
I'm
certain
sticker
level
by
of.
Gordon Kaufman.
You said what?
Sticker by Gordon Kaufman, apparently. So, according to Homebrew. But yeah, I mean, no, I think that's 100% right. Like we do. I mean, we all have our figures, and I think is there a religious system that you think the Tolkien people tend to gravitate towards? Like, I mean, I know you don't know all of the people. I'm just saying, like, the ones you talk to, what is sort of their religious system?
Most of them that I hang out with they come from evangelical backgrounds. Um, and I think that
Okay.
the second largest is legitimately Catholic, specifically for Tolkien.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people have converted to Catholicism because of Tolkien, because he was such a diehard Catholic.
Wow.
Like I know multiple
Wow.
people who became
Damn.
Catholic, and I actually almost became, like, I was thinking about becoming Catholic for very similar reasons, and I kind of dodged that bullet. Not to say that Catholicism is bad, but the reasons I would have got into it
Well,
would
I'm
not have been great.
correct. Like, it's not that the system is bad, it's your motivation wasn't perhaps in the right spot.
Yeah. So I'd say those are the two largest. And like I said, I think my views kind of is skewed because I hang out with a lot of like lapsed religious people. I hang out with a lot of queer Tolkien
Mhm.
people,
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
and so it's most of them are lapsed religious folks, and so. But yeah, but on the other side, there's a lot of Christians and Catholics love Tolkien because he's sort of a champion for a deeper version of Christianity than a lot of evangelical figures
I got
can
on some
offer.
wild right-wing Reddit situations from Tolkien that I had never even. Ew.
Oh,
And I
what's
guess you
the?
know it because you're deep in this world, but I didn't know it, and I was like, oh no, oh.
Oh yeah, the
You know,
right
it
wing
was just a
Tolkien
very
people are
surprising
bad.
situation for me, which we can dig into. I know we're going to go in there, but it was. I always considered Tolkien to be. Did you freeze? Did I freeze? Do
No,
we
you're
both
still
freeze?
there.
Okay. Okay, we're still here. Okay. I know I didn't consider him I considered him evangelical in the sense that I feel like he was kind of, or maybe you can tell me if he was or not. I don't know. Not in the sense of like maybe the evangelical church, but he was evangelical in his approach to religion, maybe. However, a lot of the stuff I read, I was like, oh no. He was like
No,
a trad husband.
well, and here's the weird thing about Tolkien is
But
that
I'm leaving this to you because you were the expert in this. This is not me.
no, because you're right. His trad husband and his views on women are like, ooh, yikes. But he was also deeply complex in the sense that like he hung
Mm.
out with like queer women, and also like he was one of the first professors at Oxford who started taking women at like as students when other people in his department were like very anti that. And
Like
so,
PhD.
yeah. Hmm.
Mm.
And,
Such a wild thing to think of.
and he actually did not like Lewis's approach to fantasy because he thought it was too evangelical. So he tried to make like a
I agree with
deeper,
that.
yeah. And his whole thing was like, just he was like, I'm Catholic, so it's gonna come out in my work. And he was like, so sure. He was like, my viewpoint and my Catholicism permeates it because that's just who I am. But he's like, if I start adding
Yeah.
religion to it, like a Jesus lion, he's like, then it loses its potency.
Jesus lion.
Paraphrasing, but that's
He was.
basically his whole
Look, he
vibes.
died and he came back from the dead, and it's fine. It's not a metaphor for anything.
It's just a lion.
No, that's it's just a lion, okay? That saves the world. No, I think that's quite right. I appreciate Tolkien's approach to, so I should say, in my like deep atheistic phase, I started reading a lot of, actually I pulled the books off the shelf because I was like, ooh, what is the one? And the one that got me was Letters to Children,
Oh,
which is,
interesting.
yeah. So it wasn't The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but it wasn't anything like that. It's actually Letters to Children, and he's explaining. Actually, we're coming full circle to you and I's conversation before we press record, which is these kids are asking tough questions, and he's responding to them. And I remember I read this when I was in college, and I just loved his ex. I of course had read Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe group that whole series, but like there was something about his approach to this that I was sort of like, and he's drawing them pictures and stuff, which is just adorable. Well, you can't see it, but anyway, it's adorable. The whole thing is
Oh
adorable.
yeah.
But it's also really complex ideas that he is making into consumable ideas that I would say are not evangelical. So I think when he's at his best is really like um when he's working through his own things. And I think that's part of like Mere Christianity I did reread, and it does read. It's a difficult read for someone who's not evangelical, I think, because a lot of it is like, this is not that simple. Or someone who studied theology, like, this
Right.
is not that. But when you're reading stuff like this, you're like, he's working through his own stuff. And like,
Right.
I think that is truly him at his best. And I think for me, it hit. I told you this previously, is it hit for me because I was also trying to work through it. And I appreciated him when he was like surprised by joy, or the great divorce and all of that, a grief when he loses, all of the stuff where he's actually going through his own, it's very practical as well, not surprising, but he's going through his own stuff. And I think in that he shines. He's not a theologian. I don't he maybe claims to be, but he's not. He was doing literature, that was his thing.
Right.
But he is in the sense that we're all theologians, we're all
Right.
creating these. But like, and so I think Tolkien had so much more of like a grasp of fantasy as a genre. And I think Lewis, I think I said this on, or maybe I said it to you separately. I think Lewis was a better teacher.
Mm. Mm. I think I would agree with that full stop for sure. Yeah.
Because he's
Tolkien.
trying to tell you something. He's worked out something in his head and he's trying to express it to you. And like, I think, although, have you ever read, does Tolkien have like letters or like
Hmm.
correspondences that you see what he was like on, like as a human? Because I've
Yeah.
only read his
He just
text.
got a new edition of his letters, actually just came out last year, I think, or 2 years ago. So yeah, his letters are very like when people get like real fundamentalist biblicists on the Lord of the Rings, and they'll go to the letters and they're like, see, this is what Tolkien really meant. And you're like, whoa, chill, buddy. It's like, it's the Lord of the Rings. I get it. Like I'm that guy sometimes, but so yeah, there's definitely
How
letters.
does he how does he come across in his letters? Is he sort of like kind of pastoral teaching, or is he just like, is it letters to fans, or like what is the context of
It's
it?
like, so it's a broad spectrum. It's like his family, it's to, there's some to C.S. Lewis that are there. There's letters to fans, all kinds of stuff.
Mm.
Honestly, Tolkien was like a very stubborn, almost and to a point like about his own views about things, and he was kind of a delicate flower. Like when people would even ask him criticizing questions
I
about
am
his work, he would
I'm
get like,
shocked.
I'm shocked.
As one
Cons-
who was the head of a theology department where I was the only female, I am. Did he did he get sad when people didn't agree with
oh, and
him?
like there's actually
Sorry,
correspondences.
I
No, no, no,
interrupted.
no. It's beautiful, and I think we have like a little audio delay between us here. Um, but yeah, like I think Tolkien, he was actually mean to Lewis a lot of times about his work. Like Lewis was like, "Dude, this is the most amazing shit I've ever read." He would say that to Tolkien because Tolkien was like, "This is horrible. I can't publish it," and C.S. was like, "No, you have to." And then Lewis would be like, "Hey, dude, what do you think about this Narnia shit?" And Tolkien was like, "This is the most heinous garbage I've ever read." But to be fair, Lewis also said some really bigoted stuff about Catholics to Tolkien, and it actually was part of the reason why they stopped talking to each other.
Were they friends in the end or no?
They really,
Oh, I
I
feel like
don't
that's a
think
no.
so.
I feel like
I don't
you're
think
telling me
so. When C.S.
mm,
Lewis died, Tolkien like wrote to somebody and he was like, "I'm really sad that I didn't connect with him in the end." But he
mm.
specifically requested to hold a mass for Lewis at his parish church.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay. Yeah, like I started reading this when I was in college. I started reading Lewis, and I liked, like I said, I didn't love his fan. I don't even like Sorry to Everyone, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I also don't necessarily love when he tries to dig real deep into theology like Mere Christianity because I think he doesn't do it well, and that's fine. He wasn't trained in it, and but I do think when he, like I said, when he's doing his own stuff and he's kind of working through it, he explains things in a really awesome way. And Nick and I are both teachers, and I think you know when you hear someone explaining something in a way that makes sense. And for me in that time, it made sense to me. I then, after college, went and actually visited Oxford. I did a Euro trip. It
So
was not as
jealous.
cool as the movie Euro Trip if you've seen that movie.
Nothing's as cool as Euro Trip. Come on
I
now.
was gonna say no one. Yeah. Anyway, there were some things, but not nearly as cool. Um, and I went to I went to his house, and you can go to his house, and it's there. And I I was very aggressive because I was 20 something, and I was just like, I'm gonna see this house. And so I went. And I told Nick this is that there's actually, well, and this was again, want to preface this was 2004. There were research students living in the house and they just came, it was a bunch of dudes. And it was me and like three other girls that I was on this trip with who I'm not gonna lie, we were pretty peak at that stage. And we were just like, hi. Hi. And there were these little English boys, and we were like, how y'all doing? And I mean, we played up. And I was like, can we come in? I just want to see, like, can we just come in for like a little coffee or a drink or something? And they were just like in their pajamas, just like, yes, yes, you can. Yep, 100%. And so we got to go in, and it was wild. But these guys just lived in there and they researched C.S. Lewis. It was his house, like his in the kilns or whatever. It was his house, and like his office remained the same. They had it kind of partitioned off, and it was still the same thing. And they had the eagle and the child, like original sign. It was just in the garage, Nick. Just in the garage. Just
Just
like
chilling there.
just chilling. Or the garage.
Ridiculous. The
Just like
garage,
chilling.
as they say.
Here, as they say, the garage. It's just chilling there. And I was like, they were like, oh, that's the original sign. It's just always here. And I was like, cool, cool. You know that that's worth I'm being American right now. Fine. But yeah, going to the background of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were in a group, and they would read each other's stuff, and you can go to the Eagle and Child, the bar, and they have a lot of stuff set up based on that. But they would read each other's works, which I will say is that if you could have someone who reads your stuff, like I've always said, Christy reads everything that I
Mm.
put out into the world. And I read everything she puts out in the world. And we have talks about it. And it's what's great is especially when you really respect the other person, is she'll tell me stuff. She'll be like, that ain't working. And
Mm.
I'll be like, that's not working for me. I don't really, and because we know what we're doing is for the benefit of the other human. And I think if you can find that, so they found that with each other. That's what I was asking if they made it out the other side. If you can make it out the other side of academia with friends, that's A plus plus. Like
A plus
Christy and
plus.
we may be setting fire to each other at the end of all this, but I don't think we will be.
No, I love so
But yeah,
you know
you got
you. No, that's great. I love that you just because I've heard this story, and I think that people will love to hear that you were a 20-something Southern belle, charming English boys to let you into C.S. Lewis's house, which is just gangster as
they
hell.
used to just Nick, they used to live in the house. They
It's
just
so
lived in the
cool.
house and like researched him. And I was like, keep in mind, I know the British system now, but I still find that to be a wild idea that I guess there was a scholarship or some sort of research. I don't know. Maybe there's one for Tolkien too. If so, you need to jump on
I wish there
that.
was. I mean, going to like a Tolkien house or somewhere where he lived to live there and research him. I
Where
wish.
did he live? I guess he lived in Oxford. I mean, I don't
Yeah, he was originally. They spent time in Birmingham, and or Birmingham, and he went. He eventually he
Birmingham.
moved to Birmingham. He retired. Oh, there's a coast he retired to that I don't know where. But then his wife died, and he
Is it in
moved
the
back to
UK or is it
Oxford.
in Europe?
It's in the
Full
UK.
stop. Mm.
Yeah, I don't
There's
remember.
not, there's not I mean, not because you'd want to retire to, I don't
Yeah,
think. Or
yeah,
Southampton, maybe.
yeah. It might have been honestly. But yeah, then his wife died, and he moved to Oxford, and then died a couple years later. Um, But you talked about just like your C.S. Lewis experience, how you first kind of really got into him, and it, like from what I heard, the way I interpreted what you said was that when the human elements of Lewis came out was what really captured you, and when you feel like he's at his best. And then of course you
Yeah,
connected
for
him to
sure.
Tolkien, through the Inklings, and obviously, and then of
Mhm.
course, now you went to conservative subreddits, which makes me sad, but because they're the worst
I
of
didn't
us.
mean to. I just Googled it. I was
Yeah,
like, I'm in a terrible state. I'm gonna do some research and Google this. And it just immediately went there. And I was like, oh,
you can
I
tell
didn't
too who
know.
they are. Like this is an aside with the new Rings of Power show, because
Mm.
when there was people of color who were playing elves, the right lost their mind. And so as soon as you have somebody who's like, "Oh, I love Lord of the Rings," and you're like, "Awesome," and they're like, "What'd you think about Rings of Power?" and you're like, "Oh, it was fine, it was okay," and then if they're like, "I can't believe they disrespected Tolkien's legacy," that is you know exactly what kind of person they are.
Oh
Uh, yeah,
no.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
it
foolproof.
was a wild trip to kind of look down that because I read Lord of the Rings in college and I read The Silmarillion and I read The Hobbit, of course, in high school. That I was well that person. But that's it. That's the depth and breadth of what I have of him.
Well,
Um,
could you
so
like get into because I want to get more into the bad theology stuff because I
yeah,
feel like the
mhm,
Reddit is a
yeah,
good transition, but
totally.
you know you've done stuff like historical work. You've done and more present work, which I guess is historical now. You were writing your
Yeah.
latest bad theology book, like in the midst of it.
Yep.
Um, but for people who don't know, I wrote a paper on bad theology or in Tolkien studies, and your work has just been
I read
really
it. It
influential.
was very good.
I
It was
appreciate
very
that.
good. Yep.
I like it was one of those books that like I think a lot of people are like that's bad, right? And then people are like, "Well, articulate it theologically." And you're like, "I don't have the words yet." And I feel like your book gave like the framework and the words to like actually do the shit. But could you like for those of us who don't like have time to go and read my paper about that or whatever, but or like could you give us like a brief summary of what bad theology is and the way you talk about
No,
it? She
they're
said
gonna have to
no.
go. They're gonna have to buy. They're gonna have to buy the book. I'm sorry.
You need to buy the
I'm
book,
joking.
everybody.
Yeah. Oh, bless, bless. That's very sweet of you. Um. So yeah. So this was something that was sort of in the works for a while. I had done my PhD on Northern Ireland and had a lot of. I talk about this in the preface, but I had basically done a ethnography. So that means you interview people and like you construct. So I would say I do constructive theology too. And you feed it back to people and you say, is this right? Is this wrong? Blah, blah. So it was about peace building essentially. And that's kind of what I had come in. And I was like, I'm from Georgia. Like I lived in Atlanta doing my doing my master's, and like I was interested in the way that theology led to like positive things. But what kept coming out in Northern Ireland is that actually there was a lot of theology that led to negative things. And of course I knew that because I grew up in Georgia, and I know that that's again full stop. But I remember my supervisor saying of my PhD saying, "This is not the last thing you're going to write. Like get through this, like your PhD, and then write the other book because what you're wanting to do in that other book about the bad theology is harder, and you just need to." Past this part. And she is a wise, wise human. And I did that. But then I took the bits because there were people who were sitting down with me being like, the Lord wants me to murder people or whatever because of things.
Right.
Right. So I took that idea and I held it. And I will say for those folks who are getting their PhDs or want to get a PhD, sometimes it's okay to let stuff ferment. Like there's a lot of like drive in us, especially as Americans, to like we have to do the next thing, we have to do the next thing, like, whatever. But there is a real sort of value to letting something sit for a minute. And so
Mm.
that bad theology sat with me for a bit. And when I did the book, thank you to SCM Press because they're amazing. No bad words to say about them, David Shervington at SCM. Um, and he was like, "Let's do it."
Hell yeah.
What do the kids say? Let's go, let's go. He was like, "Let's go." And I said, "Cool, cool, yeah. I mean, let's go, let's do it." And he was so amazing about it. And so bad theology essentially came from that world. And I came up with a criteria through a lot of theological friends like Gordon Kaufman, who is my dead lover apparently, and also Catherine Tanner and other folks. And I used the reason it needed to sit is one, I needed to get more credibility to be able to come out with something like that in terms of my writing, but also I needed to be able to get more people on board that sort of were helping me through this in terms of theologians is what I mean. And so yeah, bad theology came out of that, and I came up with a criteria based on this for bad theology. It's not groundbreaking. If you think of cults, it's probably very similar. You're don't be isolated. Um, don't listen to one person who's telling you. Like talk to people. Don't I strive for equality, justice. It's a very post kind of actually diving into the Tolkien stuff. It was funny because they kept using the word traditionalist,
Oh yeah.
traditionalist, and so they would say like so the stuff I'm doing is very grounded in non-traditionalist sort of like I would say post-enlightenment sort of because like equality and justice and all of that are very those sort of words and question things, that question things and ask questions. And so it was awesome because I got to do uh, that book, and it really pushed at a lot of stuff that I had grown up with that I didn't realize actually had really affected me, and because we never, and maybe you didn't do this in Nazarene Church, we certainly didn't in the Southern Baptist Church, like we never questioned anything. Like
Yeah.
it just, You just got told stuff, and especially because it's your mom. Oh my gosh, that would be
You
like a
just
whole
accepted
other.
it. You're like, oh, I guess
You
that's
just feel like,
right.
okay,
Right.
these are adult people. They're telling me, and I like them, and they're telling me things, so that's fine. So I think for that, and it's been a real game changer. So I got to look at bad theology and COVID, which was super interesting, and really dig into because I just kept getting once I put the first book out, I just kept getting inundated with people that were like, Look at all this stuff." And I remember I did a conference with Tripp and Sarah Lane Ritchie, who's a mutual friend of ours, all of them. And they were just like, you have to talk about the COVID stuff because this is just bad. It's
Yeah.
bad. So I did the TheoCon thing, which we did during COVID. And yeah, I just kept getting stuff and I was like, God, this is terrible. Like absolutely terrible. And so I guess this is my lot in life. And then one day I'll just sail off to an island and drink cocktails and not have to worry about it anymore. But for
Amen.
now,
Amen.
I preach that word.
The day
So
that the Lord comes back.
please put the day the Lord comes back, put me on an island, please, with a
Amen.
cocktail.
No, I appreciate you, talking about it because I like for people who aren't connected with Leah's work, like if you are somebody who struggles with theology, or if you're like, I know that I've experienced something bad, but I don't know how to say it. Her work is very good, and just like it's not only does it give you good language, but I found it consoling in a lot of ways because it gave me tools to kind of combat some of the negative things that I had internalized, Um, but you've done your first book. Leah goes really into the history of bad theology with like the KKK, the Dutch Reformed Church in South Africa, you know, and her latest book on bad theology, which is COVID, really deals with like the United States and how
Mm.
people, primarily religious
It
folks,
really messed up. Yeah.
it is really damning if people actually cared. You know what I mean? Like if there were religious people on that side of things, and if there were politicians who were more conservative that actually didn't assent to the same type of stuff, the amount of people in the current administration who I'm like, they probably believe this stuff that you pointed out, and it's
Oh,
mind blowing.
it is, and it's one of those things where it's like it's just so I don't know. I grew up in a religious setting, absolutely did. And you and I both had the advantage that we grew up with parents that were not like ramming this down our throats, right?
Right.
But I will say that it's wild to me sometimes that like it can be a thing that you can see something so blatantly harmful
Yeah.
that you can, and not even like theologically or socially or politically, but like so blatantly harmful to a human person. And you can be like, you know what? That's justified. Like it still boggles my mind. And maybe it's just the state that we're in. Um, like in terms of the US right now, but it also feels a little globally as well.
Yeah.
Um, that we just are like, this is fine. Like this is fine. Yes.
Oh, the wine
Okay.
bringer.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Stuart.
What a
Bye,
guy.
Stuart.
What a freaking
But
guy.
yeah, we got good ones. It's great. Um, but yeah, it's just insane that we like think that, like that is a thing that we can hear. Like even that guy, like when I actually started digging into it, and I will say, and I say this in the book, and it is true, the people who were acting bad in COVID were actually not that like frequent. That wasn't like it was not a frequent thing, but they existed
Right.
and they were very public and they were very usually MAGA people, I will say. Um, but like, how can you bring there's a pandemic. How can you not think it exists? People are dying. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe because my mom's a nurse and like but she loves Jesus.
Yeah.
But like, I love getting her perspective because she was like, do not. do this. But like, she never was like, the Lord will protect you. I think she was a nurse first because she was just like, don't, because my husband, for background, has type 1 diabetes. And so it was really bad for him if he got sick.
Right.
And it was just one of those things where she was like, do not take Stuart outside the house. Like it was, and I think, how can you not look at this and be like, and to be called liberal or woke or whatever, because you're like, people are dying? Like, I don't know. It was just a wild trip. That
Yeah.
was a weird one.
Yeah.
Um, how was your COVID? What did you do? Were you just holed up? You didn't go to school, no?
Well, this is where we talked about
You
the
don't have
Church of
to
the
tell me
Nazarene.
anything that will get you sued or anything.
No, it's not bad. We got, we quarantined, kind of the normal stuff. We're in the South, so obviously things were a lot looser.
Yep.
But Trevecca, which is the university I worked for, they were the only university that opened like physically, and they masked and social distanced. Now, they were one of the first COVID-19 vaccine clinics in the city of Nashville. And
Right.
so it was this weird like tension of like, okay, everyone, come get your COVID shot. It's free for literally all our employees and people in the community. But then they were like, come and be here with physical students
That's right.
in
Yeah.
at the end of 2020, beginning oh no, yeah, at the beginning of 21, right before the vaccines came out. So it was
We went
sketch.
back in 2021, I think, too.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was at I was at a university, and yeah, we did. I mean, well, they know it's not. I
Right.
guess it's not. I don't really have to say that. I mean, the students went there. But yeah, and gosh, were you teaching in college or were you teaching high school at that stage?
So
Or it doesn't honestly matter.
I was
Yeah.
working at the university library, so I was a super circulation supervisor, and
Okay.
I was going back for my master's.
Oh, cool, cool, cool.
Hmm.
The level of having, I would be like, I am a doctor, and it's like, put your mask above your nose. Put like the whole thing was like, it felt like it was I felt like I was in youth group again. I was
No
like, you
doubt.
have to, oh my God, it was so, these are 18-year-old, and also they're adults. Like, I can't make them, a lot of them are like basketball players that are bigger than me. And I'm like, could you please put your mask above your nose? And they're like, sure, lady. Man,
And then as
whatever.
soon as they
Like,
walk away from you, they pull it down. Yeah, like what are you gonna do? Like what are you gonna do?
fight them?
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
No, I'm sure not. Get them to pull my screen down so I can have a PowerPoint? Yes. Fight them? No. But yeah, it was that's a wild time. Yeah, it was a wild time. So I think, and I think theologians, I will say, having done the book, I think in general they were okay. They did well in general.
Yeah,
My book is about the ones who didn't, which were not a huge amount. So, and you want to talk about bad theology and Tolkien.
yeah.
I need your insight into what do you think is the bad theology? Because you wrote the paper on it of Tolkien.
Yeah. No, I
I
primarily
can
wrote it
steal your thunder.
about conservative, just specifically conservative scholars of Tolkien who kind of co-opt him. But there's a reason why they're able to do that is because Tolkien is a very traditional early 20th century Catholic where he wouldn't say this, but he believes in a sort of Thomist determinism, and there is the
Mm-hmm.
one true church. He was like, oh, it's up to God, obviously, but
The one true king.
right, exactly. He was like, hopefully God is merciful, but he was like, if you're not Catholic, like, I can't do anything for you, right? And obviously
Yeah,
his
you're done.
very yeah, you're done. He was mad. He was like really upset when Lewis
Mm.
converted to Anglicanism because he was like, dude, you were so close,
You were
and
so close.
you were
And to
so
be fair, he
close.
was. He
Yeah,
was so close.
he was. I mean, Catholics love C.S. Lewis too. There's actually like a Catholic movement that try to make Lewis seem more Catholic than actually is. They're like, actually, he was a secret Catholic, and I'm like,
Oh,
I don't think so. Um,
yeah. I don't
yeah,
read that, but I mean,
yeah, yeah. No,
no, that's okay. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about his. This is where your paper was really interesting because didn't know a lot of his theological background, Tolkien. I knew what I had read, and of course, I knew the social stuff because I'm I read these guys' social stuff like it's like I was trying to think of that's a Daily Mail, which is a British thing, but what was the one where they're like the alien babies are born? National Enquirer. I read their life stuff like that. So I'm deeply interested in that, but I didn't actually know what his like other than being I knew he was Catholic, but I didn't know like what his sort of theological leanings were.
yeah,
I
he
mean,
was.
go ahead.
Yeah, he was raised in the community like of John Henry Cardinal Newman's Catholic community.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
very neo-Thomist,
Yep.
very I guess that's true. There was an evangelical aspect to that's probably internalized in his own religious belief. You said that earlier, and I was like, oh, I don't think so. But now that yeah, I think I guess there is. It's there.
Well, it's hard to think about evangelical with a capital E and then just like I'm interested in you believing what I think to be true. And I
Right.
know that sounds weird, but I think evangelicals like with like a lot of political stuff and things like that are different than I think he just wanted people I think he believed it was true. So he was
Yeah,
just
for
like,
sure.
come on this journey with me. Like which, like if you ask, is my are my parents evangelical? Like in the political sense? No. No, 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 no. Do they want you to like get right with the Lord? Probably. Like, I mean, I'm gonna guess so, yeah. So, I mean, I do think there is a difference between that. And I feel like Tolkien maybe just was like, hey, this works for me, so come on,
Yeah,
let's go on this journey.
totally.
C.S. Lewis was more like me, just like with a hand over his face, just like screaming and spinning around in a like a parking lot somewhere, being like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And that's how I read him anyway, at least his theology stuff, because he's just so the stuff where he writes, especially when again, not his later stuff, I would say, but some of the stuff when he first converts, he has no, he's just like, I don't know, I don't know. This is not, I don't even, because there's one kid that's like, so what church are you? And he's like, whatever one, just
Right.
I'll just go. It's just whichever. And so that to me is the most endearing, I think, because I do like my favorite thing about humans and theologians in general, and well, I would just say people in general, is when you're just like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
but let's talk about it. Like, what's your flair? You know how they have the flair in the Office Space? Like, what's your
Oh,
flair? You know,
absolutely.
what's flair? And I think C.S. Lewis did that, and those are by far his best books.
Yeah.
Bad theology for Tolkien. Well, now I have the Reddit deep dive, and now
Yeah.
I've read one in the Reddit deep dive. Eesh.
Well, because so obviously, like this happens with everybody. Like obviously Nietzsche with the Nazis, which is a very extreme example, but
Mm-hmm.
Bonhoeffer now, like, and it happens with all kinds of figures of history. But like for you, like I know like where the weird deep subreddits go for like the weird Tolkien assimilators. But like, where have you seen that with C.S. Lewis?
I mean, the evangelical stuff is real. Like, I mean, you can't read Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe and not feel like he is really hitting it home. I actually went to a talk with his stepson, Douglas.
Oh, cool.
Like, that was in Atlanta ages ago. Yeah, it was really cool. And he had some unpublished stuff, which I'm always a little bit wary of. Well, you'll appreciate this because you do literature. Like when I've not read the new To Kill Mockingbird, the what is it, Watchmen, something a
Yeah.
Watchmen.
What? Yeah. Set of
That's
Watchmen.
Harper. Oh, so what? Yeah, because apparently it's like so. Anyway, he had some unpublished published stuff from C.S. Lewis, and it was interesting to see that, but I just was like, so the sort of stuff you get is like there definitely is like a white evangelical male need to claim Lewis, and I think that's totally, and it maybe is the same with Tolkien in a way.
It
Like
is
there's because
totally.
like I remember when Taylor of Tillich today, Taylor Thomas and I were filling out our name tags, and it said, "What Lord of the Rings character did you like?" And I just put, she thought it was so funny, which I always delight in making Taylor think anything's funny. I put the two girls that are in it.
It's so perfect.
We all know who they are. Well, at least in the movies, anyway. But yeah, so I think there's a little bit of that with Lewis for sure, is the need to sort of like make him a real intense evangelical figure. And it's a lot of times, oh, actually, when I was on Taylor's podcast and I said something about being a Lewis fan, she was like, "Oh," and she was like disappointed. And when I say it, people are disappointed in me, and I'm like, I get it to a degree, like I get it, but like, I also like smutty romance novels, and no one's like sitting here like judging me in like the wings of, the library that is my entire life here. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know why it's become such a thing. I don't know. What's your opinion? Like, because I don't think they treat Tolkien that way. They did, but Lewis really gets that sort of like dismissal in a way, I think, that Tolkien doesn't get. And maybe it's just because Tolkien was so much better at fantasy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there is some of that where there's a sort of like avant-garde, regarding
Mhm.
Tolkien because he like wrote the theory on like proper fantasy to his,
Yep.
or modern, modern fantasy that a lot of people base their work on even now. And so people were like, well, obviously Tolkien was better at world building. And then of course, just in general, even when I was growing up, it was like, oh, C.S. Lewis, the Chronicles of Narnia are cool, right? And you read Mere Christianity and Screw Tape Letters and all the popular ones, The Great Divorce, etc. But then people were like, oh, but he was just too. I feel like people view him as almost like the
On the
Pentecostal on the
nose.
radio,
Yeah. Yeah.
where those people get caricatured and they don't read anything else by him. So they're like, "Oh, Lewis was on the radio at the BBC promoting Mere Christianity." Ugh. It's like, no, he was a lot more than that, actually. Like you said, we know this, that there's more nuance to his life and even his work and his views, theological views, even in his personal life, was just very complex, just like everybody else is. You know, like he was not
I
a
mean, come on.
saint.
Like,
You
well,
know,
welcome to the world.
right?
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, and
So,
he was on the BBC too because during World War II, I think, wasn't
hmm,
he? And you can
yep,
correct me, because he was supposed to be like it was supposed to be cheerful or something, like because the BBC was like, this sucks.
right.
We need someone on the radio that's not gonna make us feel like it sucks. The British are fantastic at ignoring reality. It's their best quality. Um, Truly, I can contest. But I mean, so I think that is, yeah, I mean, that is true in many ways. I mean, I think they were doing different things. Like, I really don't, I think Tolkien was like and again, correct me, you're the guy on this. I think Lewis wrote Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe for kids. I feel
Yeah,
like Tolkien wrote his stuff for an older gen, not necessarily adults, but like when you read it and you're like, yeah, this is quite simplistic. But I'm not sure he wasn't writing to anyone to be complicated in a way. Like, I mean, you read the screw tape letters and you're like, okay, that may be an adult, which by the way, I've seen the stage play of this and it doesn't hold up in a lot of ways. Really want to emphasize I don't agree with everything he says. It's got a lot of cultural things that don't really hold up. Um, But I think that was for an older audience, and so I think in a lot of ways people look at the sort of I think this simplistic thing of Lewis got popular, and the more complex thing of Tolkien got popular. If that makes sense.
yeah.
Uh,
I almost
And
want to say there's like a pendulum, or I don't know, pendulum swing. I feel like there's almost like a switch happening though. I feel like lately, at least in scholarship, that C.S. Lewis, there's sort of a sort of rise in new C.S. Lewis scholarship where people are doing creative things where it's not just like trad evangelical guys who are like, oh, let's rehash, an atonement theory in the Chronicles of Narnia or whatever. But people are doing more creative work, and we're seeing
that's
Tolkien go the other way, where more conservative
hmm.
religious peoples are like, actually, Tolkien is a warrior for the West, and you're like, oof. So C.S. Lewis is
Oh,
kind of
did you
having
really
his
find
day.
that?
Oh, huge, dude! It is crazy how many people are like that.
That's wild.
Yeah,
They just want him as their like cultural warrior or something. But to me that's I mean, I guess I Googled it. I saw it today. I guess they're like they're they're showing like tradition. It was an interesting idea in a way because of course you and I well I won't make assumptions about you, but I sit on a more liberal side of life.
100%.
Um, okay, I don't like talking for people, but I understand. But I think that I they were talking about the orcs or whatever, like
Yeah,
were building factories. Like it's very like um that actually progress is not a good thing necessarily. Like that it's actually and I'm like, hmm. Like that's that view is like they're showing like the hobbits are the pure ones, not pure, but you know what I mean. Like they're living this life, but they're in their shire and they want to go back to the shire and everything else. And it's like the ones that are kind of like the bad guys are like building these machines and like creating this like thing we would think about progress. And I was like, oh shoot, I don't know that I disagree with because you watch it and you do think it's destructive. You're like, this sucks. Like, you
no,
know?
that's 100% right. And it's weird because like Tolkien does this thing where he's like anti like the well, he's anti-progressivism in the sense of like even like the consumer capitalist right idea of like the eternal idea of growth, where it's like, oh, no matter what, we can just build more machines and extract more wealth. And Tolkien was like, no, that's bad actually. But then he then ties it to more liberative thinking, where he's like, oh, by the way, the Reformation is the reason why we have mechanization of the earth, and anyone who isn't a Catholic is like doomed, and they'll be dictators and
Oh
socialists.
no.
But
He had me there for a second.
it's weird because he's also very like, he's like, oh yeah, things evolve, things change over time, and humans get to contribute to like what the divine life looks like. And so there's just like everybody else, because he wasn't a theologian, there's things where you're like, dude, this shit doesn't really line up, buddy. Like,
No. And I hope I get to the point in my theological career where I just start making no sense. That's really the goal.
that's the dream.
Or I just contradict myself ad nauseum. I'm like, you know what? Actually, bad theology is good theology, and it's
There'll
because
be
I'm
like
80 now.
an early Leah Robinson, late Leah Robinson, they'll
That's
start
right. I'm
some
like, you know what? Actually, a cult is not a bad idea if you're funding my trips to the beach. So that's fine.
yeah.
Um, but no, I mean, I get it. I think that both of them were like, again, they weren't, and I really want to emphasize this because people, I think, put them in that category of theologian. They weren't theologians. Like, now were they incredibly intelligent people? Well, heck yeah, they had a job at Oxford. Get over yourself. Like, of course they were super intelligent. Like, they were the experts in their field, but like, not as good as Edinburgh, but whatever. They did what they could do with what they had.
Represent.
Jokes. Um, but like, they're writing in an exploratory way, and I think Tolkien, if I'm honest, was a little bit more on the nose of what he did. Like, I think he knew he did fantasy lit, and that I mean, I guess that's what he did. Was that his title, fantasy lit? Like,
Yeah.
was he a
Hmm.
professor of that?
No, he was a professor of language, so he did historical
Oh,
linguistics, And then
Hmm.
like he actually got like he did his work in secret because Oxford people were like, "What are you doing writing about elves? Like you should be being a professional." And so
Well, it's
that's
really
kind of
hard
where.
because a lot of people don't realize that like if you work at these universities in the UK, you have something called the REF. The REF is a research excellence framework. So you get you every year they like put these they rank these universities. You have to produce works that like basically make you worth being there essentially. So I'm sure when C.S. Lewis is writing and even Tolkien's writing some of this stuff, if it's not Lord of the Rings and it's not, the Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe, it's not really moving your rank up.
Hmm.
And that's kind of we call it the Russell Group, which is like basically the biggest universities, the important, they call it R1 in the US, but you have to do stuff. And yeah, it's why God, who's the guy? Dawkins, I think. Um the four horsemen of the apocalypse. What was the guys, the new atheist guys, basically.
Oh yeah,
Um
yeah, Dawkins. Yeah,
he
yeah,
wrote Yeah, Dawkins. He wrote The God Delusion, right?
yeah.
He
Right.
got no credit for that because you also have to write in, this is the key part, you have to write in your field. So like if Tolkien and Lewis are writing about anything that's not in, that's why I asked what their category was. So I was a lecturer in practical theology. If I didn't write in that, the ref, it wouldn't count for the ref. So
Hmm.
like Dawkins writes this book, God Delusion, that's like wildly popular, probably sells a bunch. Doesn't count towards that at all. So
Damn.
all those things that they're doing is they're doing it as extras. They're not actually doing it to keep their positions. So yes, they're wildly qualified, but you know they dabbled because we all do because we get bored.
Right. Right.
We do, which
Well,
sounded weird. I wanted it to.
no, we dabble. You dabbler.
We dabble. We dabble.
I think this would be because like Dawkins is in the main, like in the not so much anymore, but I feel like his presence is still felt from the movement that him and those the new atheists had,
Yeah.
but like his like the pop culture is almost informed by a lot of it by his work. I mean, the word meme literally comes from Richard Dawkins' works. Like he invented the word
Really? I
meme.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
he tried to start a whole field of study called memetics about how ideas that linger in culture that stay and why. But then it got debunked as like not a real science, and so
I mean, still enjoyable though. Love me a
yeah,
good
absolutely. But
meme.
like I mean, he invented the word meme, which is all
Wow.
we need to know
I was today
about
years
him.
old, Nick. Today years old.
Yeah, yeah, and but like people like Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, Dawkins' work, like they impact pop culture in a way that I think a lot of people don't understand, or people who are like, "Oh, pop culture is really not that interesting." Kind of like you were talking about with REF, where it's like, "Okay, cool, you do your professional stuff, you do your public stuff, or your your hobby shit, and that's fine, but it's separate." And really, they both kind of inform. There's a sort of dialogue back and forth. So I guess because like I mean, I know you're doing like the bad theology stuff, but you like literally wrote the book on it, and so you've also. But I guess like for people who are like, okay, there's people who use pop culture to influence the way that culture, religion, and all these other in politics function. Like, so for those of us who are like navigating this stuff in the real world, like, do you have any advice on like what we should do like with pop culture like as
I mean,
fans?
like your book, Nick, that I read.
Oh,
Um, I think that yeah, I think and I will say it's a very good book. You did quite well because you were talking about things that you were experiencing, and I think that's if theology isn't influencing or even whatever academic you want to do. Again, this is the practical bit of me. If you're not like recognizing it in what you're watching or even what you're consuming, then I would ask, what is the point of that? Like,
hmm.
and a lot of times we have a mutual friend, Josh Patterson, and he will always talk about these. amazing systematic guys, and he's like, their book's so good. And I'm like, oh, is it so good? And it talks about nothing, and you're such an intellectual, and we love him, so this is a joke, and he will be fine with it. But like, I do think that it's an interesting thing because we do, in many ways, have a friend who teaches math at NCNT, and they always talk about theoretical math.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's like, I can do theoretical math, but meanwhile, he's actually creating a medical device that like is gonna make our life better, essentially, by doing practical math. And I'm like, I can do this. Do you want to talk about Derrida? Sure. Nick, we could have talked this whole time about Derrida. And I will just like, anyway, I was gonna make a gross gesture, but it's your podcast, so I'm not gonna do it. But like, we can do that. We can totally do that. But like, what does it matter to the world? And the thing is, like, my books will never be viewed as these high intellectual, and maybe this is why like we're coming full circle with C.S. Lewis here, these books. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to help people navigate the world, like you said, pop culture and the world that we're living in. Because at the end of the day, we've got so many circles around the sun, and it's like you have to live this life. And essentially, who are we talking to? Like, are you talking to like three people who know who this person is? Like, Karl Barth or whatever. Like, or are you talking to people that you want to understand and to meet on a common stage? And I think with pop culture, it's excellent the way that you did it too in your book, is that you said here are the common things we have, which is TV, which is that and movies and things and whatever pop culture stuff, but that we watch, we all consume it. And here is a cool way to look into that, and to analyze it and to think about it. And so I think Tolkien and Lewis are both very good at that. That's what they did. They were like, here is the thing, and your world building, or your world, you were world analyzing in a way. And I think, like, to me, that's the most, people will say, oh, it's consumable or it's not, high, whatever. But it's like, what is the point of life if we're not? I don't. To me, it feels like an easy thing to do. So to people who are asking that, I would say, if you're theological, or if you're not theological, or you just are whatever, again, whatever system that you're in, lead with that, and have that kind of be the narrative of your life, and see how all these things that we've created work for that. Like, I'm a hardcore lady, but I freaking watched the whole of Taylor Swift on that football podcast.
Hell
So
yeah.
sure. And long suffering other halves will watch with you. But yeah. So I mean, that's what I would say is like, if you're gonna choose a framework, like, own it. And if you don't want to, leave it by the side, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I love that. I appreciate you, giving that insight, just because embodiment in living life is so, I don't, like you said, for some, and that, I think, tying it back to Lewis, I think that's also part of why he was kind of poo-pooed,
mm,
was like,
yep.
because C.S. Lewis actually lived a life. Like, that dude, I mean, that dude could get it, Like, Joy Davidson wrote a letter and she was like, C.S. Lewis, pretty good in bed, right?
Hell yeah. Good job. Good
Yeah,
job,
like, it's
buddy.
wild. Like, he was, but Tolkien was like, hey, trad wife, take care of my children. I'm locking myself in my garage and I will be out, I don't know, maybe soon, because I have to write my made up universe and make sure that it's, you know,
Oh,
metaphysically consistent.
bless his heart. Oh no. But
Yeah.
that's fine. And that's fine. It would it. I know which one I would choose. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, same. But I like Tolkien. I'm more of a Tolkien guy. But like I said, I would live the C.S. Lewis lifestyle.
I remember when everyone found out at a side quest, but I remember when everyone found out that Carl Bart had like a live-in secretary at New College. I was working at Edinburgh at that time, and all the we have a lot of white American men who come
What?
wait, hold applause, hold applause, and hold shock. That come study with us there, and they all do curl work. And when this stuff came out about him having this like live in like, I mean, basically a mistress. Let's be real. And they were all so disappointed, and I was like, what do you think these people are doing?
Right.
Like they're living a light, and that's maybe the pop culture thing is like, I currently don't have a live-in Mr. who's writing my books for me. But like these people are existing. And if they're good, they're probably existing in the world, which is like doesn't mean like again, you don't have to like crap on all of the people you love. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that like the people who I respect are the ones that are doing theology and they're being like, you know what, I don't know the answer.
Mm.
It's not clear. And you don't see that with some theologians that we even see at beer camp where they're just like, this is, I did a panel, and I don't mind talking about, but it was John Tatamel and Grace. And there was a lot of things I was like, I don't buy that. I don't actually buy it. But again, I talk about this with in what he was saying about like interface stuff. I was like,
Oh, it got spicy and I loved it.
seems a bit simple to me. I don't actually think that's as easy as what you're saying. But I do think too, it's like this is the beauty of this sort of, well, any academics really is that you have to be able to say like, not my jam. And that's why the Inklings I think were so interesting to me because they just like,
Yeah.
who else was in that? Do you know? I only know the two.
Uh, Both C.S. Lewis and oh no, C.S. Lewis's brother, Tolkien's son Christopher,
Oh,
Charles Williams. I don't know. He's a literary person. Owen Barfield. He was a philosopher. Um,
so they had like a full set.
they did. They really did. And
Awesome.
there's a bunch of other people that were in and out that are. Dorothy Sayers. Dorothy L. Sayers was in there.
I was like,
And
was there any girls invited to the party?
she was pretty much the only one. Yeah, there was one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
but
I mean, I get it.
she said, "I've been there."
I've been there,
Yeah,
done that. Got the postcard. Yeah, no, we used to go to the bars after work, and we would. Anyway, I'm giving away our secrets at this stage.
yeah. We'll save the
We used to
secrets
do
for
this.
Leah Robinson episode part two.
Hell yeah! All right,
Okay. So before you go, tell I appreciate you doing this, Leah. This was too much
of
fun.
course.
Um,
I can chat for days. Drinking
Dude,
wine, hell yeah.
come on. The words are flowing. The words are flowing. The wine's flowing. The words are flowing. You know.
We've not revealed anything too terrible, so we've done
That's true.
well.
Uh, but you know what you should reveal to us is reveal to us what where we can find you on the internet, what projects you've got coming up, and where people can find you.
Yeah, just OnlyFans. I have and I don't. I don't. So at Theology on the Rocks is probably the best place to find me. I'll be at Theology Beer Camp. Um, but yeah, at Theology on the Rocks Instagram is probably the best place. And Christy will respond and will tell me about it later. And I have again the three books out. You can find them if you Google, but it's also on our Instagram, so that's a good place to look. Um, if you're really nice, maybe one day you'll get added to a group chat that I will look at. Uh, maybe once a day, unless my phone's still like this. Um, and yeah, you can take classes at Mercer. You could take my class. But yeah, no, that's it really. At Theology on the Rocks, Instagram is where to find me and to find all the information about that. And hang out with me at beer camp.
Yeah, go to beer camp.
Let's drink wine. And although Nick's not going,
I know. I'm a hip. Well, I haven't told you this, which we can talk about later. But I'm going to Northern Ireland and regular Ireland, so I need your suggestions. I need your
I can give you the
recommendations.
whole. I've taken students there. I can give you the whole spiel. Are you going to? So you're going there during beer camp? Yeah.
Well, no, I'm going in March, but the way my vacation days work, I get very few because I get the summers off,
I'm
and
shocked.
so
I'm shocked.
right. And so I'd have to spend them for beer camp, and I've done it the past 3 years. And Kelly was like, "Hey, that's cool, but like, could we use your
But let's
vacation
go to
days to
Ireland.
Ireland?" And I was like,
I'm with
"Yeah,
Kelly.
that's
I'm
fair,
with Kelly on
right?"
this one. Ireland, yeah, no, you're making the correct choice on that. So that's fair. But you're going to Northern Ireland specifically, like Belfast, Derry, or
No, so we're
mm,
going. We're doing like a whole thing. We're gonna do Dublin, and
you're
we're
doing
gonna
Ireland
do
proper.
the coast, right? And then we're gonna go to Belfast for a day and do that stuff. So
I'll give you the deets.
yes, please.
All right.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing this again. Everyone, go follow Theology on the Rocks. Go buy Leah's books, and we'll drink some wine and hang out on the internet soon.
For sure.